Hello, America. Hello, world. This is Key Time Sports coming back to talk about the WNBA. I'm going to do things a little different in this show. I am going to give you a rundown of every player roster in the WNBA, and then I'm going to finish the show with team outlooks and talk about the current playoff picture in the WNBA. So first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out with the Chicago Sky roster and list all of the players. First, we start off with Lindsey Allen, Camila Cardosa, Kennedy Carter, Diamond D Shields, Dana Davis, Kai, I don't want to butcher her name, Kaiseri Gonzaric, Isabella Harrison, Morena Marbury, Michaela Owiner, Angel Reese, Brianna Turner, and Elizabeth Williams. Now, the Chicago Sky won a game yesterday over the Indiana Fever, which I am going to get into their roster a little bit sooner in the show, a little bit later on in the show. So now, both of these teams, Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, are practically in the same boat. With the win yesterday, the Chicago Sky have the upper hand. So the next roster I'm going to talk about is the Atlanta Dream. And the Atlanta Dream roster consists of Letitia Amir, Jordan Canada, Tina Charles, Nia Coffey, Cuba, Lorea Cuba, Crystal Dangerfield, Alicia Gray, Naz Hellman, Rain Howard, Haley Jones, Cheyenne Parker Tyus, and Ariel Powers. Atlanta Dream is another team that has a lot of players who are just, most of the roster, their players are 2 years, they have 2 years experience in the WNBA, so they are a young and upcoming team. The next roster I want to talk about is the Connecticut Sun. And the Connecticut Sun roster consists of Rachel Banham, Dewana Bonner, Veronica Burton, Dejana Carrington, Taisha Harris, Moriah Jefferson, Bronita Jones, Tiffany Mitchell, Astu Nador Fowl, Olivia Nelson, Odanda, Alicia Thomas. And the Connecticut Sun are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the WNBA currently as it sits right now. I will get into all of the records later on in the show. Now to the next roster, the Indiana Fever. I said a few minutes ago I would touch on the Indiana Fever. So their roster consists of Grace Berger, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Demirius Dantis, Timmy Fagbinell, Lexi Hole, Kelsey Mitchell, Katie Lou Sampson, Victoria Saxton, Lyle Smith, Chelsea Taylor, Christy Wallace, and Erica Wheeler. And the Indiana Fever lost, like I said earlier in the show yesterday, to the Chicago Sky. But the season is still very much young. They can turn it around. Indiana Fever can turn it around. Now I'm going to get into the New York Liberty roster, which consists of Kennedy Burke, Marquisha Davis, Ivana Dokic, Liana Fibich, Sabrina Ionescu, John Quell Jones, Bedlaney Hamilton, Naria Salaby, Brianna Stewart, Kyla Thornton, and Courtney Vandersloot. And the New York Liberty has the best record, currently the best record in the WNBA right now. The Dallas Wings roster: Morgan Burchett, Monique Billings, Kalani Brown, Jay Lynn Brown, Natasha Howard, Lau Lopez Scannell, Tiara McCown, Arik Obanwell, Satu Sabali, JC Sheldon, Maggie Segrest, Stephanie Soares, and Shelby Uzun. And that's the Dallas Wings roster. The next roster I'm going to talk about is the Las Vegas Aces roster. And this roster consists of Christian Bell, Jessica Carter, Alicia Clark, Sydney Colson, Chelsea Gray, Tiffany Haynes, Megan Gustafson, Kate Martin, Kelsey Plum, Kim Stokes, Aja Wilson, and Jackie Young. Now, the Las Vegas Aces have won the last 2 championships, trying to go for a three-peat, which is the only thing that the Houston Comets have done in the first 4 years of the WNBA. The Houston Comets won it 4 straight years. The only 4-peat which is known in the WNBA. The next roster I want to talk about is the Minnesota Lynx roster. It consists of Bridget Carlton, Nafessa Caller, Natasha Heidman, Dorka Jusas, Sakia Cone, Kyla McBride, Diamond Miller, Alicia Peel, Elena Smith, Courtney Williams, Celia Zandelsalini, and Olivia Umpungne. And that's the Minnesota Lynx roster, which they are also in the thick of things, coming down to the playoffs. WNBA season is only 16, 17 games in, and as we can see teams that are really still in the thick of things, but in the coming weeks we are going to see some separation. So now on to the next roster, the Phoenix Mercury. The Phoenix Mercury roster consists of Rebecca Allen, Natasha Cloud, Kalia Cooper, Sophie Cunningham, Liz Dixon, Brittany Griner, Micaiah Herbert Harrigan, Natasha Mack, Charisma Osborne, Sug Sutton, Diana Taurasi. Now, Diana Taurasi, she's another one that has been in the league for a while. To make it exact, she's been in the league for 19 years. The Seattle Storm roster. I'm going to get into the Seattle Storm roster and the Washington Mystics roster. Then I'm going to talk about team record and future outlooks before I end the show with that. The Seattle Storm roster consists of Skylar Diggins, Joyner Holmes, Jordan Hortston, Jewel Lloyd, Elsie Magbor, Nikia Mahul, Nikia Ongwunwe, Mercedes Russell, Victoria Vivians, Sammy Whitcomb, and Kaina Williams. And for the last roster, the Washington Mystics roster, the roster consists of Ariel Atkins, Shakira Austin, Stephanie Dotson, Aaliyah Edwards, Emily Exter, Matisha Hines Allen, Jade Melbourne Dee Dee Richards, Carly Samuelson, Brittany Sykes, Julie Van Lowe, and the last player on the Washington Mystics roster is Shatori Welker Kimbrough. Now, since I've given you all of the team's rosters and every player who is currently in the WNBA, now I am going to get into team records. Now, I said earlier the New York Liberty is one of the best WNBA teams, if not the best. They currently have the best record in the WNBA at 15-3. The Connecticut Sun have a record of 13-3. Minnesota Lynx have a record of 13-3. Seattle Storm record is 10-6. Las Vegas Aces 8-6. Phoenix Mercury 8-8. Atlanta Dream 6-9, along with the Chicago Sky 6-9. Indiana Fever 7-11, just like the gas station 7-11. Los Angeles Sparks 4-13. The Washington Mystics 4-13, and the Dallas Wings 3-13. So now, future outlooks. I am going to tell you who is really going to stay in the thick of things right now, and it's only a handful of teams in the NBA. To be exact, there are 12. There are 12 teams in the WNBA. The WNBA was established back in 1997. The first team to win the championship was, at the time, the Houston Comets, which are no longer in the WNBA. So now I'm going to get into future outlooks on the WNBA. Now, everybody, there has been a lot of hype around Caitlin Clark. Yes, she is moving the needle for college, for the WNBA, but it's not just her. It is a few more other rookies: Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, and Cameron Brink, just to name a few. Now, Cameron Brink, she did suffer a ankle injury a couple of weeks ago. She did. So hopefully she gets back sooner rather than later, because she is also a appalling player for the WNBA right now, and she is also making people watch the WNBA more than they haven't watched before. Now, a lot of people have just came into the WNBA scene, but me, I've been watching the WNBA for a long, and I do mean long time, ever since it first started. Now, if anybody wants to comment me in the comment section and ask me how much basketball do I know, I am going to give you 5 to 6 players right now, and it will answer your question. Does anybody remember Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Maya Moore, Becky Hammond, and now Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker? Also, yeah, I just said Becky Hammond. So those are 5 players right then and there that I have given you. And I am not going to forget this player, because she is now a college coach. Dawn Staley, she also was in the WNBA. So yes, those are 5, 6 players that I gave you. And now I'm going to get into future outlooks on teams. Now, as far as the New York Liberty concerned, they can make it all the way to the WNBA Finals. They can make it all the way to the WNBA Finals. Worst case scenario, they lose in the WNBA Finals. Best case scenario, they win the whole thing. The same for the Connecticut Sun. Now, the Connecticut Sun, a few days ago, they had the best record in the WNBA. Now, they started to slip a little bit. The other night, I seen the I seen them versus the Las Vegas Aces, which leads to my next team. The Las Vegas Aces, they know that they have a huge target on their back. Won the last two championships, trying to become the first team since the Houston Comets when the WNBA first started to win at least 3 straight titles. Will they be able to do it? It remains to be seen. Now, as far as the mental, I am not going to put nothing past the Minnesota Lynx, the Seattle Storm, or the Phoenix Mercury. All those teams, they are going to stay in the thick of it because it's not too many teams in the WNBA. There are only 12, so more than half of the league is going to get into the playoffs by default. But these playoffs are going to be more entertaining than the previous few years were. Now, before I close, I'm going to get into the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, along with the Los Angeles Sparks. Now, all 3 of these teams are both young and upcoming. We know that the Chicago Sky is led by Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, and the supporting cast. Also, the Indiana Fever is led by Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and the supporting cast. And the Los Angeles Sparks are led by Cameron Brink. She is out nursing an injury. Hopefully she gets back. But the future outlook for all 3 of these teams are bright. Nobody expected them to come in that first year and set the league on fire. Now we know, since Caitlin Clark is one of the most polarizing names in sports right now, we know that she is going to put people in the seats whenever and whatever WNBA arena she walks into. The other night, they had over 12,000 people in attendance at a WNBA game, and most of that is thanks to Caitlin Clark because she's moving the needle for the WNBA. She's moving the needle for women's sports all around, and it's not just her. It's Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso and Cameron Brink and everybody else. You see little children coming to NBA games. You see NBA players going to WNBA games. You are seeing so much more viewership in the WNBA now than it ever was. Now, need I remind you, the WNBA is only 27 years old. Now, I have a list of all the other sports leagues, how they did in their 27th year. The NFL in their 27th year was still failing to generate major ratings. So they were still in the young and upcoming stage. The NBA in their 27th year was still failing to generate major numbers like they are doing now because it was still so new. The MLB really, who really watches the MLB? Because it's a baseball game takes 3 to 4 hours to complete. So, but viewership, the only viewership that I've seen with the MLB is when it comes to the MLB playoffs, because there is more on the line, and it's a 7-game series. It's the first to 4. You have to win 4 out of 7 to advance. So MLB ratings have increased over the years with more technicalities and also with showing less time constraint and shorting the time frame of a MLB game. And I go back to the WNBA. They are in their 27th season. No matter what, the WNBA is here to stay. Ain't no telling 30 years on down the line, their ratings are going to increase because every sports league every sports league's ratings increases along with time. So now, who I expect to make the playoffs? I expect all 8 teams to make the playoffs that are currently in the playoff bracket, and I am going to tell you who is all in the playoff bracket currently at this moment. The New York Liberty, Connecticut Sun, Minnesota Lynx, Seattle Storm, Las Vegas Aces, Phoenix Mercury, Atlanta Dream, and Chicago Sky. Now, the WNBA season is well over. It's not even halfway over. So, more than likely, these standings are going to change. But do I see Las Vegas getting to the playoffs? Yes. Do I see the New York Liberty getting into the playoffs? Yes. Do I see the Connecticut Sun getting into the playoffs? Yes, I do. And also, I see the Seattle Storm getting into the playoffs. So that is basically 5, 6 teams that have a legitimate chance at winning the WNBA finals this year. And with that, that is my reaction and team outlooks when it comes to the WNBA. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and content. And one last thing, remember, the key is always on time.